Welcome to today's tutorial. My name is Mrs. Cook. I'm a Sociology A-level teacher and AQA examiner. So today we're going to look at how to prepare for 10 markers, but when they are cross-topic style questions. So those are quite tricky and lots of students struggle. So let's have a look at the two types of 10 markers that you could get across paper 1, 2 and 3. There's an outline and explain 2, and there is using material from the item, analyse 2. So these appear across all three papers, and normally they focus on one topic area. But as you can see, I've highlighted in the mark schemes that you may get two topic areas that are combined. In other words, they cross over two different topics that you've learnt and combine those topics to formulate a question. So for example, we've got outline and explain 2 reasons why women are more likely than men to participate in new age movements. So here they've combined the social groups chapter or topic with the topic on religious organisations. And if we have a look at the item question, you can see that the item question says analyse 2 ways in which migration patterns have affected household structures in the United Kingdom. So here you can see that they've combined the topic of demography with migration and household structures from the family diversity topic. So these questions can be very tricky because when you're revising, you often look at topics individually. So I've come up with a matrix that you might want to use that will enable you to revise and practice potential questions by allowing you to combine 2 topic areas and formulate your own questions that you can practice with your peers. So here's an example of a matrix that you could use. So down the left-hand side, you've got perspectives, family diversity, marriage and cohabitation and divorce, gender roles and power, childhood, demography, policy and theories. So those are all of the topics that you cover if you're doing AQA A-level sociology. And again, it mirrors at the top. So what you can do is just use one chapter and combine it with another chapter, formulating your own 10 markers. So for example, we could take perspectives on the left-hand side and we could go across to childhood, and you could then formulate a question, outline and explain 2 Marxist perspectives on the role of childhood. So here you can see this is the beliefs matrix. Again, go down to the left-hand side and then across at the top to formulate your own 10 marker style questions. So for instance, you could go to globalisation and religion down the left-hand side and go across to secularisation, formulating your own style question, outline and explain 2 ways globalisation has had an impact on secularisation. So this is an example of a matrix that you could use for education. Now remember, with the education questions, paper 1, you don't get outline and explain 2 for education, but you do get an item question. So you could formulate your own item and design a question based on this matrix. So you could say, okay, I'm going to look at class and achievement and I'm going to combine that with policy. So you could make your own item and then write the question using material from the item, analyse 2 ways policies have impacted class and achievement. And again, this is the example matrix for your crime and deviance, but remember you don't get outline and explain 2 for your paper 3 on crime, but you will get an item question. So you could come up with your own item, as we just did with the education, and formulate your own question. So for instance, you could combine globalisation with crime control and punishment. So you could come up with your own item and put analyse using material from the item and elsewhere, analyse 2 ways globalisation has had an impact on forms of punishment and control. So here is an actual past exam question that you can access on AQA website. So this is an outline and explain 2 ways in which globalisation may have influenced religious beliefs and practices of minority ethnic groups in the UK. So they've combined globalisation here with social groups. So a quick look at the mark scheme. To get the top band, which is 8 to 10, answers will have to show very good knowledge and understanding of 2 ways globalisation has influenced religious beliefs and practices of minority ethnic groups. So you have to link those 2 topic areas together. 2 applications of relevant material, and there will be appropriate analysis for the extent to which globalisation may have influenced religious beliefs and practices, in particular of ethnic minority groups. So here's an example paragraph, and this person got 9 out of 10. So let's have a look at their paragraph structure. So one way in which globalisation may have influenced religious beliefs and practices of minority ethnic groups in the UK is cultural defence. So immediately they have linked in a theoretical idea of cultural defence. Globalisation has caused interconnectedness and a much more ethically diverse version of the UK. So there is your link to globalisation. So we live in a much more multicultural society now. However, upon moving to the UK, some minority ethnic groups will have been faced with racism. So what they're doing now is linking globalisation and the movement and interconnectedness of societies, and they're linking it to a rise in racism. They're now going to bring in a study. Bruce argues the role of religion helps minority ethnic groups deal with the racism of wider society. So there is their link. They are linking religious practices of ethnic minorities to globalisation. So it is a defence mechanism, a cultural defence mechanism. Now, what's really good is they give some examples. So Bruce argues the role of religion helps minority groups deal with racism. Once in the UK, ethnic groups, particularly black people, set up their own churches as they felt threatened in white ones. So there is an obvious example of religious practice as a direct result of the interconnectedness of our society. Furthermore, these churches help to develop a community away from racism for ethnic minorities. So there is your impact of that religious practice. And at the bottom, therefore, globalisation has influenced the practices of minority ethnic groups. There's your link back to the question. So they have combined globalisation, the increasingly interconnectedness, creating an ethically diverse version of the UK with increase in black churches. Remember, this is just one paragraph. You would need two. And of course, the second paragraph needs to be on something completely different. So you could do something like fundamentalism, for example. Okay, so overall, hopefully that's been helpful, and here is a reminder of the grids. And I'll pop these grids on my YouTube channel as well.